And welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new here, and that is just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite horror movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. You would think if you did that every single video for hundreds of videos, you would never mess it up. Like sense memory. I will find a way to do it though. So, welcome back to our discussion on the new Halloween trilogy with Halloween Kills. Now, I only watched the extended cut, not the theatrical cut, so I don't know anything about the theatrical cut. I watched the extended cut, and so that's what my feelings and my impression of this movie is based on is the extended cut, not the theatrical cut. So I don't even know what differences there were. It was released in 2021, which is something I do know. And it was directed again by David Gordon Green, written by John Carpenter, Debra Hill, and Scott Teems. Stars Jamie Lee Curtis, Judy Greer, and Andi Matichak, because it's all the same damn people with some new ones thrown in. So, now Halloween Kills picks up the second after the last movie ended. Laurie and them are still in the back of the truck. Cameron is still trying to walk home in a dress because he was dressed up like Bonnie from Bonnie and Clyde. So, the movie opens with Cameron trying to call his friend Oscar, whom we know is hanging on a fence dead. He ends up running across Frank's body, which we thought is his body, which he turns out to still be alive, at which point we get to see Frank's backstory. Back in 1978, we get to witness him, as Michael was doing all of that crap back then, and the kids on the street, and one of them was Lonnie, and them finding Michael attacking his partner Dave, whom he accidentally shoots because he cannot shoot for shit. Boy should have not been an officer back then, that's for sure. Then again, it's probably not too different than today. They're just too quick to shoot today. But so he ends up shooting Dave, and Dave ends up dying, and his second transgression is that he stopped Dr. Loomis in 78 from killing Michael. And none of this would ever be taking place. So he's lived with an enormous amount of guilt over these years because of it. So we are then taken to a karaoke bar. We're introduced to that guy and that black couple that's dressed up as a nurse and a doctor. We are introduced to Lonnie, now all grown up, and Tommy, which is the boy that Laurie was babysitting that night in 78. We are introduced to the other survivors, was Miriam and, why is that? Lindsay. I don't know why that name is so hard for me. But Lindsay and all of them. Tommy tells the story of that night, and then we see the fire department heading out to Laurie's house. Now, she hears the sirens. They're in the back of that truck, and she's like screaming, no, 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 let it burn, if only they had. So, the fire department gets there, and the firefighters, they start putting out the house fire and stuff like that, and of course, they let Michael go, and that was an excruciatingly brutal and cool scene, because that boy just slaughters them. I mean, just fucking slaughters them. He kills, 25 firefighters, or 25? What was half that town firefighters? But there was a lot of bodies left, and some very imaginative ways he killed them. So, Laurie is taken in for an operation, because of the stab that she had gotten. So Lori's in the hospital. We get to see the older couple kill, which actually find out later that the black woman didn't die, but the guy is stabbed brutally, and the woman is stabbed in the throat with the fluorescent tube light, which was wow. I mean, so there's really good kills in this movie. But then again, they did show that she was still sitting there alive, but I just assumed that she was dead, but we find out later she was not. So we see Tommy and Lonnie and all of them when they find out that Michael is on the loose, and they get all mob mentality about it. The town's going to come together and take out Michael as a group, as a unified group. And he gets the big bat that he carries, and he thinks that he saw Michael steal a car. That black couple thought that the guy was in the car. It turns out that that's one of the other, there were two mental patients missing from that bus, Michael and this guy. So, and they don't even really make it much of a spoiler, because first of all, you thought, why would Michael change the radio station? And within 5 minutes or less, you're shown that it's that other mental patient. So it's not like they left it a mystery for very long. But I do remember when it first happened, when Tommy was walking up to the car and he changed the radio station to a rock radio station. I'm like, the fuck would Michael change the radio station from? That can't be him. I just knew that it wasn't him, And what kind of music would Michael listen to, I wonder? I think he would listen to something like the Andrews Sisters, like Mr. Sandman. I think that's kind of what he would listen to. He'd tried to find an easy listening station. But so yeah, we find out very quickly that that's just the other mental patient. We're introduced to Big John and Little John. They live in Michael's actual old house. So that's a pretty cool scene when the kids bother them and they spook the kids. Allie is questioned by the cop, and Karen is questioned by the cop too at the hospital, where the cops are, wanting to know what's going on. So we get to see things really start turning into a very mob-like mentality amongst all of them. They are told that Michael was saved, which really upsets Karen and all of them, and she don't want to tell Lori at first that that's what happened. We see the SUV attack because Lonnie and Tommy, they kind of split. Tommy goes to the hospital and stuff, but Lonnie and Miriam and the black couple and Lindsay, they're in this SUV, trying to find him. Whereas Tommy is at the hospital leading a fucking mob. They end up finding the SUV after they're all murdered and stuff. Wait a second, did I screw something up? It's Lonnie and Cam and Allie that are looking for them. Right, Lonnie wasn't in the SUV. He comes along with Allie and Cam and finds them. But those were some nice kills. Miriam, the black couple, and Lindsay is chased through the woods, but when Lonnie and them pull up, they end up finding them. And so they take her to the hospital. I ran out of black scripto, so all of my notes are written in blue and red scripto. In this light, can you imagine how difficult it is? Just letting you know. So they take Lindsay to the hospital, where Tom rallies the town. Tom ends up going into the room with Lori to say why he's there. And even though Karen had intentionally not told Lori that Michael was still alive, that dumbass runs in there and tells her that Michael is still alive. So she flips the fuck out. Big and Little John have an intruder. And that's a pretty cool scene too. We see the other patient at the ER where the mob thinks that it's Michael, because no one's ever seen him, so no one knows who it looks like. The two Johns search the house. Big John gets killed ugly. I think he like squishes his eyes out. Then Little John gets killed kind of like off screen. I think he just gets stabbed because you see him later. So back in bed. Oh, Lori is back in bed. Sometimes my notes. So Lori is back in bed after she came out and tried to be a badass and ends up like ripping her stitches and stuff. The mob is after the second patient. Frank ends up telling Lori about how he shot, his responsibility, because she's of course very guilty. All of this is happening because of her. She brought this curse. And then Frank kind of like tries to explain to her that he believes it's him because he's the one who stopped Loomis from killing him. So he sort of tells his secrets, and that's when I think both of them kind of chilled out about the guilt. Because I think it was at that moment that they realized that this stuff has happened to them. Their errors in judgment and thing is not the cause. It's just part of it, So they seem to calm down after both admitting how they feel about it. Karen ends up going and trying to save the second patient by locking him behind the door. The mob, though, gets to the door, is crashing it down, and that patient, like busts the window and jumps out. 3 stories to the ground in a big splat. Lonnie and crew have kind of figured out, Lonnie's crew, which is him and Cam and Allie, have kind of figured out that what's probably going on is Michael's probably going back home. So they're going to go to Michael's house, which is Big and Little John's house. So they go there, and Lonnie talks them into waiting while he goes inside. And then Allie and Cam end up going in after they hear a gunshot. So they end up going in, and they find Big John and Little John's bodies, which was pretty wild and sad. And while she's in there with their bodies, Cameron goes down the hall, and like blood falls on him, and he finds his dad hanging out of the attic. Very, very dead. So it's at this point that Michael then comes out, attacks Cameron, starts beating the ever-loving shit out of him, and goes after Allie as well, throws her down the stairs, where she then has to literally watch him brutally murder Cameron while she screams for him to come get her. So Michael finally gets through killing Cam, and that last neck twist was pretty damn awful. So he goes out there and goes after Allie. What he doesn't see is that Karen has showed up, and she puts a nice big pitchfork through his back. So she pitchforks him, and then gets his mask off, right? right before he can kill Allie is when she had stabbed him. So she gets his mask and gets him to chase after her, where she has arranged a little trap. And that is on the street over. A huge number of townsfolk are there. So it's sort of like a Frankenstein's monster kind of scenes. She gets him to come for that mask, and he steps out there to pick it up, and that's when Tommy and all of them come out. And they shoot, stab, slice, beat mercilessly him down to the ground, beating the hell out of him. The whole town is there, or a great number of them. Beat, stab, shoot. And then Karen takes the last big stab where she stabs him through the back with the butcher knife. And then she goes back over there to where Allie is to take care of her. Where unbeknownst to her, the shape is not done. And just about the time everybody's feeling all satisfied, he steps up and slaughters everyone around him, including Tommy, whom he bashes with his own bat. Now, even though Karen and them doesn't know that this happened, she goes up there into what was his sister's room, and Michael appears behind her, slashes her all to pieces. Lori kind of knows that that's what's happened because Lori's calling her from the hospital and can't get Karen to pick up. Instead, Michael answers the phone by by clicking the accept button, and she can hear Michael breathing, and she just tells him that I'm coming for you. And that's where this movie ends as well. So, what did I give this? I gave this a 9 out of 10. I really loved this movie. It kept me very engaged. You know by now. You know by now. The secret, the answer. I like these movies. I'm on the fanboy side. So, you can go ahead and call me all your names. Tell me in the comments why you hate it so much and why I'm so wrong, even though I'm not. But it's okay. You have every right to believe that I am. You're wrong, but you have every right to your incorrect opinion. But this movie was bloody as fuck. This movie was definitely what it says. Halloween Kills. He did some killing. I like the backstory of Frank. I, however, do believe he is like the majority responsible for all of this. Because if he'd have just let Loomis kill him when he had the chance, but would he have died back then? I don't know. He can't seem to die now. The extremes they have to go through to finally kill him is just, it's like, I don't think that was within Loomis's capability back then. But then again, would they have had to have done it that way back then? Had he had already transcended? Because we get this nice little monologues from Lori about the nature of Michael, the nature of evil, the nature of this whole mythology, which is what leads in to the third movie, which I don't really understand now that, I've seen it, but we'll talk about that. So that was Halloween Kills, released in 2021. It's the second in this new Halloween trilogy. And like I said, I saw them for the first time yesterday. I watched them back to back, which certainly gives them a different perspective. I'm not really sure how I would have felt if I had watched these individually when they came out. First of all, I am not a motherfucker who likes cliffhangers. I don't like it at all. Like, when my favorite shows were on, like the 100, or I think I had Netflix back then, before I got rid of all that stupid streaming shit. But when a season of the 100 or the Leftovers or some of the few TV shows that I liked, the 100 is a good example, the Leftovers. When a new season of the 100 would come out, I did not watch it. I would not watch it. I waited till the season was over so that I could then watch the entire season at my own pace, like 6 episodes a night, and just finish it in 3 days. So I'm not one for cliffhangers, so I don't know how I would have felt about these movies, these 3 movies, if being left to ponder without the answers, if being left to stew about it, steam about it, get angry about it. And now, hopefully anyone watching this, if you haven't seen them, I think that you'll escape all of that. And perhaps even some of those who did do it that way, maybe if you went back now and watched them as one movie, you'll see all the little Easter eggs. And what I meant by Easter eggs is all of the dialogue, the talking. Laurie talks a lot about the nature of Michael, the nature of evil, what she believes happened, how he transcended. And that really does stay consistent through these 3 movies, and it is why Halloween Ends is what Halloween Ends is. And because 2018 was fresh in my mind, because it had just ended, and I threw on Kills, I picked it right back up, and when Kills ended, I threw it off and put Ends in and finished it off. So I don't know. I don't know. Since it didn't happen that way, I can't tell you. I don't know how I would have thought about these movies had I seen them individually years apart. I don't know. I just know that I loved 2018 and I loved Kills, and I think they made, so far, a great movie. And we'll talk about Halloween Ends next when we end this trilogy. Love you, miss you. Bye-bye. And always remember, never forget, you're a very, very special person, even if you are not being chased by an entire town who think you are Michael Myers. Bye.